Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the 7 deadly sins combined, the Demon King Meliodas Heir Naruto x Merlin, the 7 deadly sins. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Awakening Sins. The forest outside Konoha blurred past as Naruto leapt from branch to branch, his black and orange Jonin uniform flapping in the wind. 4 operatives followed closely behind, their porcelain masks catching glints of sunlight filtering through the leaves. Targets half a kilometer ahead, Naruto called back, tapping the seal on his forearm that amplified his sensory abilities. Moving fast, but not fast enough. The mission was supposed to be simple: intercept and capture the rogue grass ninja who'd stolen classified intel from Konoha's archives. But nothing in Naruto's life had ever really been simple. Split formation, ordered the ANBU captain, his hawk mask bobbing with the command. Uzumaki, take point. Naruto grinned and accelerated, pumping chakra into his legs. At 20, he'd grown into his power, tall, confident, his father's features more prominent in his face, though the whisker marks and wild blonde hair remained unmistakably his own. 5 years after the Fourth Great Ninja War, peace was, well, complicated. And this mission was proof. As he closed in on the target, a strange sensation pulsed through Naruto's body. Like heartburn, but throughout every muscle and nerve. He'd been feeling these odd surges for weeks now, but this one was different. Stronger, almost angry. The hell, he muttered, nearly missing his footing on the next branch. The rogue ninja sensed their pursuit and spun around, hands already flashing through signs. Earth style, stone spear jutsu. Massive stone spikes erupted from the ground, forcing the ANBU team to scatter. Naruto twisted in midair, dodging the deadly points while forming a familiar cross-shaped sign. Shadow clone jutsu. 5 clones popped into existence around him, each diving toward the rogue ninja from different angles. But as Naruto prepared to follow with a Rasengan, that strange burning sensation flared again, this time so intensely that he gasped. His vision blurred, momentarily taking on a reddish tint. Not the familiar Kyubi chakra, something different, more ancient. Focus, damn it, Naruto growled to himself, forcing his attention back to the battle. The ANBU had engaged the rogue, who proved to be more skilled than expected. 2 of Naruto's clones had already been dispersed in puffs of smoke. The grass ninja wove through another set of hand signs. Poison mist jutsu. Purple vapor billowed toward them, forcing everyone to retreat, except Naruto. That strange heat in his body suddenly concentrated in his lungs, and he found himself inhaling deeply. Uzumaki, fall back, the ANBU captain shouted. But Naruto's body moved on its own. He breathed in the poison cloud, his chest expanding impossibly. The ANBU watched in shock as every wisp of the toxic gas disappeared into Naruto's lungs. Then he exhaled, and a torrent of blue flame erupted from his mouth, so hot it turned the soil beneath it to glass. The grass ninja barely escaped, clothes smoking, eyes wide with terror. What the hell are you? Naruto stared at his hands, equally shocked. I don't know what just happened. The burning sensation receded, leaving him dizzy but otherwise unharmed. Before anyone could react, the rogue ninja threw down a smoke bomb and bolted. After him, the ANBU captain ordered, but paused beside Naruto. You good? Yeah, Naruto nodded, though the lie felt obvious. Let's go. They resumed pursuit, but Naruto's mind raced faster than his feet. That wasn't the Nine-Tails power, Kurama would have said something. This was new. Different. And somehow familiar in a way he couldn't explain. The chase led them to a ravine where the grass ninja had prepared an ambush. Explosive tags detonated, sending rocks and splintered trees in all directions. 2 ANBU were caught in the blast, while the captain and the remaining operative took defensive positions. Enough games, Naruto muttered, forming a Rasengan in his palm. But as the chakra swirled, something else mixed with it, a blackish-purple energy that made the sphere expand and pulsate with barely contained power. The strange burning concentrated in his right arm, and Naruto noticed with alarm that black markings were spreading across his skin like tattoos, intricate patterns resembling flames or perhaps scales. What the Rasengan in his hand suddenly tripled in size, its usual blue glow now shot through with streaks of darkness. The power felt incredible, intoxicating. Without conscious thought, Naruto flung the modified Rasengan toward the rogue ninja. The jutsu moved faster than any he'd created before, tearing through the air with a sound like thunder. When it hit the cliff face where the grass ninja was perched, it didn't just impact, it obliterated. The entire ravine wall collapsed in an explosion that sent everyone diving for cover. When the dust settled, the rogue ninja lay unconscious in the rubble, miraculously alive but badly wounded. The ANBU captain landed beside Naruto, his mask hiding whatever expression might lie beneath. Uzumaki, what was that? Naruto stared at his arm. The black markings were fading, but slowly, like ink seeping back under his skin. I wish I knew. The Hokage's office was silent after Naruto finished his report. Kakashi, still adjusting to the hat and robes even after 5 years, steepled his fingers in thought. And this has happened before, he asked. Not like this, Naruto admitted, rubbing his arm where the markings had appeared. I felt weird pulses of something. But nothing this strong. Nothing that changed my jutsu. Sakura, now head of Konoha Hospital and present as both medical authority and friend, frowned. Your chakra readings are normal now. Whatever it was, it's dormant. Could it be related to the Nine Tails? Kakashi asked. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward to the space where Kurama resided. The fox's presence was there, but quiet, seemingly as puzzled as everyone else. Kurama doesn't know either. Says it's not his chakra, but it feels nostalgic somehow. Like he sensed something similar before, long ago. Shikamaru, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, sighed. Troublesome as always. I'll check the archives, see if there's any precedent. Thank you, Kakashi nodded, then turned back to Naruto. Until we understand what's happening, I'm keeping you off missions. What? Come on, I'm fine. Naruto protested. You breathed in enough poison to kill a squadron and then shot black fire from your mouth, Sakura reminded him, eyebrow raised. That's not fine by any definition. Naruto slumped in his chair. So what am I supposed to do? Sit around twiddling my thumbs while you guys figure this out? Actually, Kakashi said, we have a visitor who's specifically asked to meet you. Someone who might have answers. As if on cue, the door opened. A woman stepped into the room with the casual confidence of someone who'd navigated far more dangerous situations than a Hokage's office. Tall and statuesque, she wore an outfit that would have raised eyebrows even in Konoha, a white coat over a revealing outfit that emphasized her athletic figure, with strange symbols embroidered along the edges. Her amber eyes regarded Naruto with scientific curiosity, while her black hair fell in elegant waves around a face that seemed somehow ageless. Naruto Uzumaki, she said, her voice smooth and commanding. My name is Merlin. And I believe I can explain what's happening to you. The air in the room seemed to thicken with tension. Even Shikamaru straightened up, his lazy posture giving way to alert attention. How would you know anything about me? Naruto asked, suspicious but intrigued. Merlin smiled, a gesture that was both genuine and carefully measured. Because I've spent centuries studying the 7 deadly sins and their power. And you, Naruto Uzumaki, are exhibiting classic signs of awakening sin abilities. 7 what now? Naruto blinked. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Merlin suggested, glancing at Kakashi. The Hokage nodded slowly. Naruto's condition concerns Konoha's security. Whatever you know, you can share with everyone in this room. Very well. Merlin approached the center of the room, raising her hand. A swirl of strange energy, not chakra, something different, formed above her palm, creating a floating image like a three-dimensional photograph. It showed 7 figures standing together, each distinctive in appearance. At their center stood a blond young man with a strange symbol on his forehead, a dragon eating its tail. The 7 deadly sins were once the most powerful knights in a kingdom far from your lands, in a world where magic, not chakra, was the dominant power. Each sin possessed a unique ability tied to their namesake: pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. The image shifted to focus on the blond man. Their captain was Meliodas, bearer of the sin of wrath. But he was much more than a human knight, he was the son of the demon king, possessing power that rivaled gods. Naruto leaned forward, strangely drawn to the image. What does this have to do with me? Everything, Merlin said simply. Because over time, Meliodas eventually succeeded his father as demon king. And centuries later, when a great cataclysm threatened both our worlds, he cast a special spell, one that would pass the combined powers of all 7 sins to a worthy vessel in a future generation. She waved her hand, and the image changed to show a complex magical circle with symbols that made Naruto's eyes hurt to look at them. A vessel that, based on the energy readings I've been tracking for months, appears to be you. The room fell silent again. Naruto stared at his hands, remembering the black markings that had appeared during the mission. That's... Sakura began, but trailed off, scientific skepticism warring with the evidence of her own eyes. Impossible. Merlin finished with a knowing smile. In my experience, that word rarely applies when it comes to magic, demons, and fate. Let's say I believe you, Naruto said slowly. What does this mean? Am I turning into some kind of demon? Not exactly, Merlin replied. You're becoming something unique, a hybrid existence combining the bloodline of the Uzumaki clan, your status as a Jinchuriki, and now the inheritor of the 7 deadly sins powers. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. How do you know about Jinchuriki? You're clearly not from our lands. I've been studying your world for longer than you might think, Merlin said cryptically. Knowledge is my specialty, after all. Before anyone could press further, Naruto doubled over, a grunt of pain escaping him as that burning sensation returned, worse than before. Black markings raced across his skin, not just on his arm now but spreading across his chest and up his neck. Naruto. Sakura rushed forward, medical chakra already glowing around her hands. Stand back, Merlin commanded, her tone leaving no room for argument. She approached Naruto and placed a hand on his forehead. Strange symbols appeared in the air around them, glowing with power. The awakening is accelerating. I suspected this might happen once I got close to you, my presence is triggering a resonance with the dormant powers. Naruto's eyes flashed, the usual blue briefly replaced with pitch black, then returning to normal. The pain subsided, and he gasped for breath. What was that? He panted. The sin of pride, Merlin explained, helping him sit upright. Escaner's power. It responds to threats to your self-worth and dignity, someone questioning your identity triggered it. Naruto looked up at her, a mixture of fear and fascination in his eyes. You know how to control this? I can teach you, she confirmed. But it won't be easy. Each sin has its own nature, its own triggers. Mastering all 7 will be unlike anything you've trained for before. Before Naruto could respond, the door burst open. An ANBU operative stood there, tension evident even behind the mask. Hokage-sama, Councilman Danzo demands an immediate meeting regarding the incident at the ravine. He's brought TNI division members and is requesting authorization to examine Uzumaki. Kakashi stood slowly, his casual demeanor giving way to the steel beneath. Tell Councilman Danzo that Naruto is under the Hokage's protection and medical supervision. Any examination will be conducted by Sakura Haruno, no one else. The ANBU nodded and disappeared, but the tension remained. Danzo, Naruto growled, and for a moment, his eyes flashed black again. Always trying to turn me into a weapon. He senses the power awakening in you, Merlin observed. Power like yours attracts those who would control it. Shikamaru pushed away from the wall. This is getting complicated fast. If what she's saying is true, Naruto's not just dealing with a new ability, he's becoming something unprecedented. And a target, Sakura added grimly. Kakashi turned to Merlin. How long would it take for Naruto to learn control? With my guidance? Weeks, perhaps months, she answered honestly. The Sin's powers are tied to emotions, to fundamental aspects of human nature. They can't be mastered through traditional training alone. Naruto stood up, his usual determination returning. Then we better get started. Kakashi nodded. You'll train under guard at the Uzumaki compound. Merlin, you'll need to be vetted by our intelligence division. I think not, she interrupted smoothly. My knowledge comes with conditions. I work directly with Naruto, or not at all. And we do it my way. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as Kakashi and Merlin locked eyes in a silent contest of wills. Why help me at all? Naruto asked, breaking the tension. What do you get out of this? Merlin turned to him, and for the first time, a flicker of something more personal than scientific interest showed in her eyes. I've spent centuries studying magic, demons, and the balance between worlds. The power awakening within you could tip that balance irrevocably. She paused. And I knew Meliodas, both as the Sin of Wrath and later as the Demon King. If he chose you as his heir, I want to understand why. The honesty in her answer surprised everyone, especially Naruto. Fine, Kakashi sighed. But ANBU will maintain perimeter security, and Sakura monitors Naruto's condition daily. Merlin nodded her acceptance. We should begin immediately. The awakening has already started, it won't wait politely while you deliberate. As if to emphasize her point, a distant explosion shook the Hokage tower, followed by shouts of alarm. That came from the direction of the TNI building, Shikamaru noted, already moving toward the window. Below, they could see a figure leaping across rooftops, pursued by ANBU. It was the grass ninja they'd captured earlier, somehow free and moving with unnatural speed. Impossible, Naruto muttered. He was half dead when we brought him in. Merlin's eyes narrowed. He's been possessed. I can sense it from here, demonic energy. What? Sakura gasped. Your awakening power is acting like a beacon, Merlin explained quickly. Drawing attention from entities that have long been dormant in your world. Naruto was already heading for the door. Then I'll put them back to sleep. Naruto, wait. Kakashi called, but too late. Naruto leapt from the Hokage's balcony, chakra already flowing through his body as he pursued the escaping ninja. But with each bound, that strange burning grew stronger, the black markings reappearing across his skin. This time, they formed a pattern on his back, a stylized image of a lion. Pride. Naruto landed in the ninja's path, cracking the street beneath him. That's far enough. The grass ninja turned, but his eyes were wrong, solid black, with an eerie purple light shining from within. When he spoke, his voice echoed as if multiple people were talking at once. The heir awakens, the possessed man said, his face splitting into an unnatural grin. After all these centuries, the Demon King's power returns to the mortal realm. I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto growled, but you're not leaving Konoha. The possessed ninja laughed, a sound that made birds flee from nearby trees. You don't even understand what you're becoming. Such delicious ignorance. He raised his hands, and dark energy, similar to what had mixed with Naruto's Rasengan earlier, swirled around them. Allow me to educate you, heir of Meliodas. The attack came faster than any jutsu Naruto had faced before, a wave of darkness that tore through the street toward him. He leapt aside, but the edge of it caught his leg, burning through his pants and searing the skin beneath. What the hell? Naruto winced, examining the wound. It wasn't healing as quickly as injuries usually did with Kurama's help. Demonic power can hurt even you, heir, the possessed ninja taunted. Your borrowed fox can't protect you from your own heritage. Anger flared in Naruto's chest, and with it, that burning sensation intensified. The lion mark on his back glowed through his clothes, and suddenly he felt stronger, much stronger. His muscles bulged slightly, and the air around him shimmered with heat. I don't know what's happening to me, Naruto admitted, clenching his fist as power coursed through him, but I know one thing, I won't let you hurt anyone in this village. He moved, and the world seemed to slow around him. One moment he was 20 feet away, the next he was directly in front of the possessed ninja, his fist connecting with the man's jaw. The impact sent the grass ninja flying through 3 buildings before crashing into a water tower, which exploded in a shower of wooden debris and water. Naruto stared at his fist in shock. Even with Sage Mode, he'd never hit that hard before. The possessed ninja extracted himself from the wreckage, his body moving in jerky, unnatural ways. Bones that should have been shattered reset themselves with sickening cracks. Yes, the creature inside him hissed with satisfaction. The sin of pride grows stronger with the sun. Escaner's power flows through you. Naruto didn't understand, but he felt the truth of it. The sunlight on his skin seemed to feed the burning sensation, making him stronger with each passing moment. The strange confidence that came with it felt good. Right. Who are you? Naruto demanded. What do you want? I am merely a messenger, the possessed ninja replied, dark energy swirling around him again. The first of many who will come for the heir of the sins. The balance shifts, Naruto Uzumaki, and old powers stir. Before Naruto could respond, a blast of pure magical energy struck the possessed ninja from behind. Merlin landed beside Naruto, her hand still glowing with power. That's enough, she said firmly. Return to your realm, lesser demon. The creature snarled at her. The boar sin of gluttony. Of course you would find him first. Always collecting rare specimens for your experiments. Merlin's eyes narrowed dangerously. I won't ask twice. This vessel is failing anyway, the demon said dismissively. But know this, heir of Meliodas, they're coming. The goddess clan stirs, and they have not forgotten the sins of the demon king. Black smoke erupted from the grass ninja's mouth and eyes, swirling upward before dissipating in the sunlight. The man collapsed, once again unconscious but now looking entirely human. Naruto turned to Merlin. You need to start explaining. Now. I intended to, she replied calmly. But it seems our timeline has accelerated. She glanced at the gathering crowd of ninja and civilians, many staring at Naruto with newfound fear or awe. Though perhaps not here. Anbu appeared around them, along with Kakashi and Sakura. Secure the prisoner, Kakashi ordered, nodding toward the fallen grass ninja. And get a containment team here. Full TNI protocols. Sakura immediately moved to Naruto's side, examining the wound on his leg. This isn't healing like it should. Demonic energy, Merlin explained. I can treat it. She knelt beside Naruto and placed her hand over the wound. Strange symbols appeared, glowing with golden light, and the pain subsided almost immediately. Better? She asked. Naruto nodded, surprised. That's not medical ninjutsu. No, Merlin agreed. It's magic. Something your world once knew but has largely forgotten. Kakashi looked between them, then at the destruction caused by the brief battle. Several buildings damaged, a water tower destroyed, and civilians looking increasingly uneasy. We need to move this discussion somewhere private, he decided. The Uzumaki compound, as planned. Shikamaru, coordinate with intelligence. I want to know how that prisoner escaped and what exactly possessed him. Already on it, Shikamaru confirmed, though his sharp eyes lingered on Merlin with unconcealed suspicion. As they prepared to leave, a new voice called out from the crowd. The demon reveals itself at last. Naruto turned to see Danzo approaching, flanked by his personal root guards despite the official disbanding of the organization years ago. "Councilman," Kakashi acknowledged coolly. "This is an active security situation. Please step back." Danzo ignored him, his single visible eye fixed on Naruto. The village has tolerated the risk of the Nine Tails for years because of the fourth seal. But this, he gestured to the black marking still visible on Naruto's skin, is something else entirely. Something without safeguards. "I have everything under control," Naruto insisted, though the wavering of the markings as he spoke suggested otherwise. "Do you?" Danzo asked smoothly. "Because I count 3 destroyed buildings that suggest otherwise." Merlin stepped forward, interposing herself between Naruto and Danzo. "The markings are a manifestation of ancient power, awakening after centuries of dormancy. With proper guidance, Naruto will master them completely." "And you are?" Danzo asked, his tone suggesting her answer was irrelevant. "Someone who knows far more about this situation than you do," Merlin replied, her pleasant smile not reaching her eyes. Tension crackled between them like electricity. Naruto could sense Danzo's chakra, cold, calculated, covetous. The man had always viewed him as a potential weapon. Now, with these new powers manifesting, that desire had only intensified. The realization sparked anger in Naruto's chest, and with it, the burning sensation flared again. The markings on his skin pulsed, and he felt a surge of something. Not chakra. Something older, more primal. "Careful," Merlin murmured, placing a restraining hand on Naruto's arm. "Pride responds to challenges to your dignity. Don't let it control you." Naruto took a deep breath, forcing the burning sensation down. "I'm fine." Kakashi stepped between the groups, his posture casual but his chakra alert and ready. "This discussion can continue later, in the proper forum. For now, Naruto will be placed under protective observation while we assess the situation. The council will expect a full report," Danzo said, already turning to leave. "And contingency measures, should this condition prove dangerous to the village." Once he was gone, Naruto let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That guy always knows exactly how to piss me off. Which is precisely what you need to guard against now," Merlin noted. "Your emotions are directly linked to these powers. Anger, pride, envy, sloth, greed, gluttony, lust, each sin will respond to and amplify its corresponding emotion." Naruto looked down at his hands, watching as the last of the black markings faded back into his skin. "So I'm stuck with these things now." "Great." "Not stuck," Merlin corrected. "Blessed, or cursed, depending on your perspective. But definitely changed." She glanced around at the gathered ninja, her expression thoughtful. "The sins chose you for a reason, Naruto Uzumaki. And if the demons and goddesses are stirring because of it, we have much work to do." The Uzumaki compound sat on the outskirts of Konoha, rebuilt after Pain's destruction of the village. It wasn't grand like the Hyuga estate or meticulously maintained like the Nara forests, but it was Naruto's, a symbol of his heritage and his future. Now it had become a combination of fortress, research facility, and training ground. ANBU guards patrolled the perimeter, while inside, Merlin had converted one of the larger rooms into something between a laboratory and a magical workshop. Strange instruments lined the walls, symbols were chalked onto the floors, and bottles of mysterious substances sat in careful arrangements on shelves Naruto hadn't owned yesterday. "How did you get all this stuff here so fast?" he asked, poking at what appeared to be a floating crystal. "Pocket dimensions," Merlin replied absently, adjusting some apparatus. "Quite useful for storage." Naruto decided not to ask for clarification. After 2 days of constant testing and explanations about demons, goddesses, and magical kingdoms, his head was already spinning. "So run this by me one more time," he said, sitting cross-legged on a cushion. Meliodas was the captain of these 7 deadly sins, but also the son of the Demon King. And eventually he became the Demon King himself? Correct, Merlin nodded, finally turning her attention fully to him. Though the path was far from straight. Meliodas spent centuries fighting against his demonic heritage, trying to remain human for the woman he loved. Elizabeth, Naruto recalled from earlier explanations. The reincarnating goddess. Yes. Their love story spanned 3,000 years, through countless cycles of death and rebirth. Merlin's voice softened slightly. I watched much of it unfold. Their devotion to each other never wavered, despite the curses placed upon them. Something in her tone made Naruto look at her more closely. You were there. For 3,000 years. Merlin smiled enigmatically. Time affects me differently. Let's leave it at that for now. She approached, kneeling in front of him and placing a hand on his forehead. Her touch was cool against his skin, which had been running hot since the awakening began. The marks have stabilized somewhat, she observed. Pride and wrath have manifested most strongly so far. Not surprising, considering your personality. Hey! Naruto protested. Merlin laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her usually composed features. It's not an insult. Pride can be a virtue when it's about dignity rather than arrogance. And wrath, properly channeled, becomes righteous justice. So how do I control them? Naruto asked, unconsciously rubbing the spot on his back where the lion mark had appeared. That's what we're going to work on, Merlin said, rising gracefully to her feet. She gestured, and a circle of light appeared on the floor around Naruto. Each sin has its trigger, its nature, and its expression. Pride grows stronger with the sun and responds to challenges to your dignity and worth. And wrath? Naruto asked. That's the one that turned my Rasengan black, right? Meliodas's power, Merlin nodded. Wrath responds to threats against those you care about. It manifests as counter, the ability to reflect attacks back at your enemies with even greater force. She walked around the circle, adjusting its dimensions with small gestures. The key is balance. These powers aren't good or evil in themselves, they're aspects of human nature magnified to godlike levels. How you use them defines what they become. The circle complete, Merlin stepped back and raised her hands. The symbols began to glow brighter, and Naruto felt a strange resonance within him, like the vibration of a struck bell. What we're doing now is mapping the connections, she explained. Seeing how the sins have integrated with your existing powers, the Nine Tails chakra, your natural energy affinity, your Uzumaki vitality. Naruto closed his eyes, feeling the different energies within him. Kurama's familiar presence, vast and ancient. His own chakra, bright and warm. And now these new powers, 7 distinct flavors of something both alien and strangely compatible. It's weird, he said, keeping his eyes closed as the energies shifted inside him. They feel like they've always been there, just sleeping. In a way, they have, Merlin replied, her voice sounding distant as she monitored the spell. Meliodas's magic sought out a compatible soul across time and space, someone with the potential to contain all 7 sins without being corrupted by them. She paused, and when she spoke again, there was a note of something like wonder in her voice. I've never seen integration like this before. The sins are binding to your chakra network, using it as a conduit. They're becoming part of you, not just power grafted on. Naruto opened his eyes to find Merlin studying him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. Is that good or bad? It's unprecedented, she admitted. When the original sins wielded these powers, they were granted by the Demon King as separate abilities. No one has ever held all 7 simultaneously, not even Meliodas. The implications hung in the air between them. Whatever was happening to Naruto went beyond even Merlin's extensive knowledge. Before either could speak again, a knock came at the door. Sakura entered, medical kit in hand. Time for your daily checkup, she announced, then paused, taking in the glowing circle and floating symbols. Unless I'm interrupting something important. No, we're just finishing, Merlin said, waving her hand to dispel the magical diagram. His condition has stabilized somewhat, but the integration continues. Sakura nodded and approached Naruto, her hands already glowing with medical chakra. Any new symptoms since yesterday? Just the usual burning when I get worked up, Naruto shrugged. And I accidentally crushed a doorknob this morning. Pride strength, I guess. Sakura ran her diagnostic jutsu over him, her brow furrowing in concentration. Your chakra network is evolving. I've never seen anything like it. That's becoming a common phrase around here, Naruto joked, trying to lighten the mood. The pathways are expanding, Sakura continued, ignoring his comment. Almost like they're making room for something else to flow alongside the chakra. Merlin nodded. Magic and chakra are different energy systems, but compatible. His body is adapting to channel both. Sakura completed her examination and sat back, looking troubled. Naruto, your core temperature is running 3 degrees above normal, and your cellular regeneration rate has doubled since yesterday. Is that dangerous? He asked. I don't know, she admitted. There's no medical precedent for this. Theoretically, accelerated regeneration is beneficial, but there could be unforeseen consequences. Naruto grinned, trying to mask his own concern. Hey, I've been medically unprecedented my whole life. What's a few more symptoms? Neither woman smiled at his attempt at humor. There's more, Sakura said hesitantly. The council is meeting tonight to discuss your situation. Kakashi-sensei is doing his best, but Danzo's been gathering support. They're talking about containment protocols. Naruto's smile faded. They want to lock me up. They're afraid, Merlin said quietly. Fear is a natural response to power they don't understand. After everything I've done for this village, Naruto muttered, anger kindling in his chest. With it came the familiar burning sensation, stronger now, spreading down his arms. Black markings began to appear, different from before, these resembled a dragon. Wrath. Naruto, calm down, Sakura urged, placing a hand on his shoulder. Kakashi-sensei won't let it happen. Neither will any of our friends. Merlin watched the markings spread with academic interest. The sin of wrath responds to perceived injustice. Interesting that it manifests now, when the threat is political rather than physical. Not helping, Naruto growled, the markings pulsing with each heartbeat. He could feel power building within him, dark, destructive power that wanted release. Merlin approached and, to both Naruto and Sakura's surprise, placed her hands on either side of his face, forcing him to look directly into her eyes. Listen to me, she said firmly. Wrath is not your enemy. Neither is pride, or any of the sins. They are aspects of yourself, magnified. Accept them, acknowledge them, but don't let them control you. Her amber eyes held his, unwavering, and Naruto found himself focusing on them, using them as an anchor against the tide of anger. That's it, Merlin encouraged. Breathe. Feel the power, but direct it. You are its master, not the other way around. Gradually, the burning subsided, and the dragon markings receded. Naruto exhaled shakily. Thanks, he murmured. Merlin stepped back, her usual composed expression returning. You're welcome. Though next time, try to manage it without assistance. I won't always be there to talk you down. Sakura looked between them, clearly reassessing her understanding of their relationship. I should report these findings to Kakashi-sensei before the council meeting. It might help counter some of Danzo's arguments. She packed up her medical kit and headed for the door, but paused before leaving. Naruto, be careful, okay? Whatever's happening to you, don't try to face it alone. You have people who care about you. After she left, Naruto stood and walked to the window, looking out at the village he'd spent his life protecting. Lights were coming on as evening approached, families gathering for dinner, shops closing for the day. Normal life continuing while his own had been turned upside down. "They'll never see me the same way again, will they?" he asked quietly. Merlin moved to stand beside him, her reflection appearing in the glass. Change is inevitable. Power transforms not just the wielder, but how others perceive them. She paused. Meliodas understood this better than most. "You talk about him like you knew him personally," Naruto observed. "I did," Merlin said simply. "I was one of the 7 deadly sins. The boar sin of gluttony." Naruto turned to her, surprised by the straightforward admission. "So you have powers like these too?" "Similar, but different," she replied. "My sin granted me infinity, the ability to sustain spells indefinitely. Combined with my natural affinity for magic, it made me formidable." The understatement was clear in her tone. Naruto had already witnessed enough of her abilities to know formidable barely scratched the surface. "Why did Meliodas choose me?" he asked abruptly. "Out of everyone across time and space or whatever, why pick some random ninja from Konoha?" Merlin's expression softened slightly. "You're hardly random, Naruto. You're a Jinchuriki who mastered cooperation with your tailed beast rather than domination. You ended a cycle of hatred that had persisted for generations. You faced godlike enemies and prevailed through determination and compassion rather than mere power." She turned back to the window, her gaze distant. "Meliodas spent his life fighting against his demonic nature, trying to be worthy of Elizabeth's love. Perhaps he saw in you someone who could wield the combined powers of the sins without succumbing to their darker aspects." Naruto absorbed this in silence. The idea that some ancient demon king had specifically chosen him as an heir was still hard to wrap his mind around. "What happened to the other sins?" he asked finally. "They lived their lives," Merlin said, a touch of melancholy in her voice. "Diane and King found happiness together. Ban eventually reunited with Elaine. Gauther found purpose beyond his creator's design. Escaner." She trailed off, something personal flickering across her face before disappearing. "And you?" Naruto pressed gently. Merlin smiled, a small, private expression. "I continued my research. Magic has always been my first love." Before Naruto could respond, a flare of energy washed over them both, not an attack, but a presence. Something powerful had just entered Konoha. "What the hell was that?" Naruto asked, instantly alert. Merlin's expression had turned grave. "Divine energy. A member of the goddess clan has arrived." "Is that bad?" "Potentially very bad," Merlin confirmed, already moving toward the door. "The goddess clan and demon clan have been enemies since the beginning of time. If they've sensed the awakening of demonic power within you." They hurried through the compound, ANBU guards falling in around them as they emerged outside. The village seemed peaceful at first glance, but Naruto could feel it now, a presence hovering over the Hokage tower, radiant and terrible. "We need to get there now," he said, gathering chakra for a teleportation jutsu. Merlin placed a hand on his arm. "Wait. Running headlong into confrontation with a goddess is exactly what we should avoid right now. You've barely begun to understand your powers. If this goddess thing is here because of me, that makes it my responsibility," Naruto countered firmly. "I'm not hiding while Kakashi-sensei and the others deal with my problems." Merlin sighed but nodded. "Very well. But follow my lead. The goddess clan can be absolutist in their thinking." They traveled swiftly across the rooftops, Naruto noticing how villagers were pointing skyward, their faces mixture of awe and fear. As they approached the Hokage tower, he saw why. Hovering above the building was a figure of impossible beauty, a woman with flowing silver hair and multiple pairs of white wings that radiated light. Her eyes glowed with golden power, and the air around her shimmered with divine energy. On the roof of the tower stood Kakashi, flanked by ANBU and several Jonin, all looking up at the goddess with expressions ranging from wariness to wonder. "That's a goddess?" Naruto whispered as they landed on an adjacent building. An archangel, to be precise, Merlin corrected. One of their higher orders. The archangel's voice carried across the village, melodious yet authoritative. I am Ladoshal of the four archangels. I come seeking the vessel of demonic corruption that has awakened in this realm. Kakashi's response was measured. If you're referring to a citizen of Konoha, I'm afraid I must ask you to address your concerns through proper diplomatic channels. Ladoshal's beautiful face hardened slightly. This is not a diplomatic matter, human. It is a matter of cosmic balance. The power of the Demon King has no place in this world or any other. That's debatable, Merlin said, stepping forward into visibility. Hello, Ladoshal. It's been some time. The archangel's eyes widened with recognition. Merlin, the boar sin of gluttony. I might have known you'd be involved in this abomination. Such harsh language, Merlin replied coolly. Especially coming from someone whose clan's hands are hardly clean when it comes to maintaining cosmic balance. Their exchange had the weight of ancient history behind it, grudges and conflicts spanning millennia that Naruto could only begin to imagine. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward to join Merlin. Immediately, Ladoshal's golden eyes fixed on him, narrowing with disgust. So this is the vessel, the archangel said. A human child playing with powers beyond his comprehension. I don't know about beyond my comprehension, Naruto replied, meeting her gaze steadily despite the pressure of her divine presence. But I'm definitely still figuring things out. Maybe try coming back in a few months. Kakashi made a small sound that might have been suppressed laughter, quickly disguised as a cough. Ladoshal was not amused. The power awakening within you will corrupt this entire world if left unchecked. Surrender yourself to the goddess clan's judgment, and your death will be merciful. Hard pass, Naruto said immediately. I'm kind of attached to the whole living thing. The archangel's wings flared with light, her patience clearly wearing thin. This is not a negotiation. The taint of the Demon King isn't what you think it is, Merlin interrupted. Meliodas chose this vessel specifically, Ladoshal. The transfer of power was deliberate, not random corruption. This gave the archangel pause. Meliodas? Impossible. He perished in the cataclysm along with much of both our kinds, yes, Merlin finished. But not before ensuring the powers of the 7 deadly sins would endure, in a worthy vessel. Ladoshal's golden eyes bored into Naruto, searching. 7. This human contains all 7 sins. Seems that way, Naruto shrugged, trying to project more confidence than he felt. Though I'm still getting the hang of it. The archangel hovered closer, her divine energy pressing down on them all like an invisible weight. Even the ANBU struggled to remain standing under the pressure. No single vessel could contain such power without being corrupted, Ladoshal declared. It is against the natural order. Yet here he stands, Merlin countered. Untainted. Ask yourself why that might be, Ladoshal. A tense silence followed as the archangel seemed to consider this. Finally, she spoke again, her voice slightly less hostile but no less commanding. I will grant a reprieve, but not absolution. The 4 archangels will observe this experiment. If corruption takes hold, we will intervene. Fair enough, Naruto nodded, relieved to avoid immediate conflict. I'm not planning on getting corrupted anyway. Ladoshal's expression suggested she found his casual tone inappropriate, but she addressed Merlin rather than responding directly to him. The supreme deity will hear of this development. Her judgment may differ from mine. It wouldn't be the first time, Merlin replied with the barest hint of a smile. With a final pulse of divine light that momentarily turned night to day, Ladoshal ascended and vanished, leaving behind only a lingering sense of holiness that gradually faded from the air. As tension drained from the gathered ninja, Naruto let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. So that went, okay. Better than expected, Merlin agreed. Though a reprieve is not the same as acceptance. The goddess clan's patience has limits. Kakashi approached them, his visible eye creased with concern. Would someone like to explain why we just had a divine being threatening one of my ninja? The short version. Merlin said. The powers awakening in Naruto are setting off cosmic alarm bells. Ancient forces that have been dormant for millennia are taking notice. Great, Kakashi sighed. Just what we needed on top of the council situation. Speaking of which, said a new voice, and they turned to see Danzo emerging from the stairwell onto the roof. I believe this incident only reinforces the need for containment measures. Uzumaki is clearly attracting dangerous entities to the village. Naruto felt a surge of anger, and with it, the now familiar burning sensation. The dragon markings began to appear on his arms, responding to his emotion. Careful, Merlin murmured beside him. Wrath is stirring. With effort, Naruto pushed the feeling down, though he couldn't keep a slight growl from his voice as he addressed Danzo. I'm not the threat here. I'm the only one who can deal with beings like that. So you claim, Danzo replied smoothly. Yet by your own admission, you barely understand these powers. How can the village trust you to control what you don't comprehend? That's why I'm training him, Merlin interjected. Naruto's control improves daily. Danzo's single visible eye shifted to her. And who are you, exactly? Another outsider with mysterious powers, appearing just as Uzumaki's condition manifests. Your timing seems convenient. Merlin's expertise is essential, Kakashi said firmly, stepping between them. And this discussion belongs in the council chamber, not on a rooftop after we've just averted a potential divine conflict. Indeed, Danzo conceded, though his gaze remained fixed on Naruto. The council awaits. I believe recent events will only strengthen my position. As he turned to leave, Naruto noticed something odd, a flicker of energy around Danzo's bandaged arm. Not chakra, but something else. Something familiar. Did you see that? He whispered to Merlin once Danzo was out of earshot. Yes, she replied quietly. Demonic energy, faint but distinct. Your councilman Danzo has been experimenting with forces he doesn't understand. That can't be good, Naruto frowned. No, Merlin agreed. It can't. The council chamber was tense as Kakashi delivered his report on both Naruto's condition and the appearance of Ladoshal. Naruto sat at one end of the long table, with Merlin beside him, while the village elders and clan heads occupied the remaining seats. Danzo sat directly opposite, his expression unreadable. So to summarize, Hamura said when Kakashi finished, Uzumaki is manifesting powers connected to ancient demons, attracting the attention of divine beings who consider him a threat, and we're relying on the guidance of a self-proclaimed immortal sorceress who admits she doesn't fully understand what's happening. That's technically accurate, Kakashi conceded. Though lacking in context. The context, Danzo interjected, is the safety of the village. Whatever these powers are, they place Konoha at risk. Shikamaru, representing the Nara clan in his father's absence, leaned forward. If these powers are as significant as described, couldn't they also be an asset to the village's protection? Precisely, Kakashi nodded. Naruto has always used his abilities to defend Konoha. This situation is no different. Except it is different, Danzo countered. The Nine-Tails power was contained by a seal designed by the fourth Hokage himself. These new abilities have no such safeguards. Naruto had been silent until now, but he could feel pride stirring at the implication that he couldn't control himself. The lion mark pulsed on his back, urging him to defend his dignity. I've mastered every power I've ever encountered, he said, keeping his voice level with effort. From the Nine-Tails chakra to sage mode. I'll master these too. And in the meantime? Koharu asked. While you master them, what protections does the village have if you lose control? Naruto opened his mouth to respond, but Merlin spoke first. If I may, she said, her tone polite but authoritative, I understand your concerns. They're not dissimilar to those raised when the original 7 deadly sins first manifested their powers. She rose gracefully, commanding the room's attention. What you're witnessing is not random or chaotic. It's a deliberate transfer of power from one chosen vessel to another, across time and dimensions. Meliodas, the original bearer of the sin of wrath and eventually the Demon King, selected Naruto specifically because of his capacity for balance. And we should take your word for this? Danzo asked skeptically. You don't need to, Merlin replied smoothly. The evidence is before you. Despite manifesting powers that would corrupt or overwhelm most vessels, Naruto remains fundamentally himself. His values, his loyalties, his essential nature, all unchanged. She gestured to the markings that had appeared on Naruto's skin. These manifestations aren't signs of corruption but of integration. The sins respond to his existing personality traits, amplifying qualities he already possesses. Shikaku Nara, who had been silent until now, spoke up. What exactly are these sins capable of? We need specifics, not abstractions. Merlin nodded. Each sin grants different abilities. Pride bestows tremendous physical strength that waxes and wanes with the sun. Wrath enables the reflection of attacks with multiplied force. Sloth grants immunity to physical and magical attacks. Greed permits the theft of physical abilities. Gluttony allows absorption of knowledge and power. Envy enables perfect mimicry of others' abilities. And lust creates illusions and commands flames. The room was silent as the council processed this information. That's considerable power, Hayashi Hyuga said finally. It is, Merlin agreed. Which is why proper training and understanding are essential. Not confinement, which would only increase emotional instability and make control more difficult. Danzo leaned forward. And who exactly are you, to claim such expertise? You appear without warning, with powers unknown to our world, coincidentally at the exact moment these abilities manifest in Uzumaki. I am Merlin, the boar sin of gluttony, she replied simply. I was there when the original sins received their powers. I fought alongside Meliodas for centuries. There is no one more qualified to guide Naruto through this transition. Convenient, Danzo remarked. And unverifiable. Naruto felt that now familiar heat rising again, but not from pride this time. The dragon markings of wrath began to appear on his arms as anger flared at Danzo's dismissal of Merlin. You know what's really convenient, he said, rising to his feet. How you always show up whenever there's a chance to treat me like a weapon instead of a person. First with the 9 tails, now with this. The markings pulsed with each word, and the air around him darkened slightly, as if light itself was being absorbed. Naruto, Merlin cautioned quietly. But he continued, fixing Danzo with a hard stare. I've seen how you look at me, like I'm a tool you want to use. But here's the thing about tools, Danzo, they work both ways. As he spoke, he felt something stir within him, not just wrath, but a new sensation. Colder, more calculating. On his leg, a new mark appeared, a fox with multiple tails. Greed. With it came awareness, a strange, intimate knowledge of Danzo that he shouldn't possess. He could sense the man's physical abilities, his chakra reserves, the strange energy in his bandaged arm. And he could take them if he wanted to. The realization shocked him back to his senses. He blinked, the fox marking fading as quickly as it had appeared. Kakashi, sensing the tension, stepped in smoothly. I think we've established the complexity of the situation. As Hokage, I propose the following compromise. Naruto continues training under Merlin's guidance, with ANBU observation. Weekly reports to the council on his progress. If his control falters significantly, we can revisit containment options. Danzo looked as if he wanted to object, but Shikaku spoke first. A reasonable approach. I second the Hokage's proposal. One by one, the other council members voiced agreement, leaving Danzo isolated in his opposition. Very well, the elder conceded finally. But any incident, no matter how minor, will trigger immediate re-evaluation. As the council dispersed, Naruto remained seated, troubled by what he'd experienced. When only he, Merlin, and Kakashi remained, he finally spoke. I felt something new. Another sin. Greed, Merlin nodded. Ban's power. It allows you to physically steal abilities from others. I could feel everything about Danzo, Naruto explained. His strength, his chakra, and something else. Something hidden in his arm. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. Hidden how? I don't know exactly, Naruto frowned, trying to recall the sensation. But it felt wrong. Like the energy from that possessed grass ninja, but contained, controlled somehow. Merlin and Kakashi exchanged looks. Danzo has always had secrets, Kakashi said carefully. Some were exposed after the war, but others remain buried. Secrets with demonic energy? Merlin asked skeptically. I wouldn't put it past him, Kakashi admitted. But proving anything against Danzo is notoriously difficult. Naruto stood, decision made. Then we watch him. Because I get the feeling he's more dangerous than any of us realized. As they left the council chamber, Naruto couldn't shake the lingering sensation of greed, the cold, calculated awareness of others' abilities, the potential to take what wasn't his. It troubled him more than pride's overwhelming strength or wrath's destructive power. Each sin will challenge you differently, Merlin said as they walked, seeming to read his thoughts. Pride tests your humility. Wrath tests your mercy. Greed will test your contentment. And the others? Naruto asked. Sloth will test your diligence. Gluttony your moderation. Envy your gratitude. Lust your self-control. She paused. The sins are not evil in themselves, they're aspects of human nature amplified. How you respond to them will determine what they become in your hands. They reached the street outside, where night had fully fallen. The village seemed peaceful again, though Naruto noticed civilians giving him a wider berth than usual, their eyes lingering on him with newfound wariness. They're afraid of me now, he observed quietly. Fear is a natural response to change, Merlin replied. Even positive change. Give them time to adjust. And if they don't? Merlin's amber eyes met his, surprisingly gentle. Then you prove them wrong, one day at a time. As I suspect you've been doing your entire life. The simple understanding in her voice touched something in Naruto. For all her ancient power and knowledge, in that moment Merlin seemed genuinely human, someone who recognized struggle because she'd experienced it herself. Tomorrow we begin proper training, she continued, her usual business-like tone returning. Now that 3 sins have manifested, we need to establish consistent control protocols. 3. Naruto asked. I thought just pride and wrath had fully appeared. Greed emerged tonight, however briefly, Merlin reminded him. Once a sin manifests, it remains accessible, though mastery takes time. As they walked back toward the Uzumaki compound, Naruto fell silent, processing everything that had happened. Divine archangels, council politics, and powers beyond anything he'd imagined, all suddenly part of his life. Hey, Merlin, he said finally. Why did you really come here? To Konoha, I mean. Was it just to train me? She didn't answer immediately, her eyes fixed on the starry sky above. When she did speak, her voice carried a weight of centuries. I've lived a very long time, Naruto. I've seen civilizations rise and fall. I've watched friends live, grow old, and die while I remained unchanged. After a while, purpose becomes elusive. She glanced at him. When I sensed the sins awakening in a new vessel, I was curious at first. Scientific interest, nothing more. But now. Now. Naruto prompted when she trailed off. Merlin smiled, a small, genuine expression. Now I find myself invested in more than just the outcome. I want to see what you become, Naruto Uzumaki. What you do with powers that once belonged to my closest friends. It was perhaps the most honest thing she'd said since arriving in Konoha, and Naruto appreciated it more than she could know. Well, he grinned, some of his usual confidence returning, I guess I'll have to make it interesting then. As they continued toward the compound, neither noticed the shadowy figure watching from a distant rooftop, a man with bandages covering one eye and arm, his visible eye narrow with calculation and the faintest purple glow emanating from beneath his wrappings. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.